What is good, guys, man? Thank you for tuning back into the channel, man. If you're new, make sure you hit that sub button down below to be notified for every single video that I drop, man. If y'all have not watched part one, I'm going to leave part one in the beginning of the video. She has an interesting testimony about being in hell and then demons just taking our heart out and putting it back in, or whatever the case may be. Make sure you tune into part one. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to miss it. Let's go ahead and finish the rest of the videos, man. Let's get into it.
um, from that, but I still remember it vividly. But because my laptops were stolen, I don't have like that concrete, because I was writing everything down that happened, but I don't have that concrete detail by detail like I documented years ago. So after that experience, I wasn't myself. I was still weaning off the benzodiazepines, and I remember the person I used to hang out with at the daycare after work, she even said, "You've been acting weird ever since we hung out in the car." And I couldn't tell her what happened because I had myself just fathom it myself. I'm not thinking about Christianity. I'm not thinking about Jesus, but I knew for a fact where I was a hell, and I was being tormented. But like that didn't, heaven and hell, and in that sense, a religious sense, it didn't come into my brain. So of course, life just as things happen, you go through life, and I just kept it in the back of my head. I said if I ever need to talk about it, then I have it documented on my laptops, or I have it like in my heart, because that's something you cannot forget. So I just went on with my life, and at that point I started doing what I wanted to do. Not in a bad way, just more, I'm human, I'm on this earth, I deserve to just be who I want to be, right? Because at that point I remember struggling with my sexuality. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Everyone's saying it's bad, but all I see is a human loving another human. And that's this bad agenda that's happening today. It's just this love is love. But that's a whole nother story. But that's where I went. Then I got into the crystals. Then I got into new age. I started calling myself spiritual. All that jargon. I started trying to meditate. I started charging my crystals in the moon, talking to them, like doing all this stuff, thinking like that was just the way, right? And it wasn't. And I remember, I remember at some point thinking to myself, I'm like, well, I'm doing all this stuff, ain't nothing changing. I'm still broke. I'm still whatever. I'm still living my life regularly, but ain't nothing changing. Again, still not thinking about Jesus. I do, however, remember saying I think Jesus is real. I do believe he existed on earth. I just didn't know too much about all of that. So I always kept Jesus in the back of my mind. I just thought it was more. I thought, because you know that saying they say, all religions are just leading to one road, so all the religions come together and it's just leading to the same God. And that was my mindset. That's what I thought, and that's what I was on. But over time, that hell thing um dissipated, and even that warmth, love that I felt prior to that experience when I was crying sitting down in a chair alone, that warmth, that encompassing love, like I forgot about that experience too. Because at some point, way after that torment, I just started hating everything. Of course, I'm deep into witchcraft, trying to do spells, trying to manifest my life, all these things, and nothing was working. It was, I remember a few times visiting crystal shops to get more crystals. They had like fortune tellers there. They had mediums there. I would always talk to the mediums there. Sometimes they would even do it for free. I'm like, sure, why not? Not even realizing I'm opening myself up to the enemy. I'm trying to remember what came next, because I've had so many weird things just happen. Um, I I remember one point when I was hanging out with my friend. Um, we were just hanging out, and I saw. Now this one, I think this one was because they all jumbled together. Now this one is definitely a drug induced vision. So I was with my friend at this time, and at that point, I'm back to how I was. And so we're smoking. We go to the gas station to get some stuff that it's illegal now. You cannot get this stuff, but back then it was legal. So we would get like some stuff off the shelf. It would be called like devil's lettuce, but they said that you are not supposed to ingest it. But that's what the kids were ingesting anyways. Come on, like you don't go to the store and get this stuff that looks like drugs or whatever and not smoke it. But they market it anyway. But they have to cover their, you know what, they have to cover themselves legal wise. So we would get this stuff and we would mix it in with our marijuana. And I remember smoking and I was like, okay, my heart is racing like crazy. Like never happened before, just racing like crazy. And all of a sudden I was just like in space. And I tried talking about this randomly, even to my family before, because it wasn't scary. It was just like I was in space, and I remember seeing the Earth. It was like God was showing me this. So my friend was like, just he sat me down, but I stood back up because I'm like, are you seeing this? Like I'm in space right now. Like at that point I was in space, but I was still kind of like in my body. So I'm standing up, I'm talking to my friend, saying everything that I'm seeing, but I'm not seeing what's in the living room. That's because that's where we were. I'm seeing what's out there. And it's so weird to this day. I've even tried to draw what I saw. So it was like these hands. Like in my point of view, it was like these hands. Assuming the creator's hands. I'm not sure whose hands they were, but it was like it was governing the earth, like the planet. And what I saw didn't have any color. It was just the earth. And then on the earth, it was like these geometric patterns connecting like almost like stars. Those geometric shapes connecting one to another all throughout the planet. And what I got from that, like in that sensation, was that everything on this earth is connected. We all affect each other somehow, some way, shape, or form, whether it's in a positive way or in a negative way. We all impact one another. And I remember just thinking this. And like I said, this was at this point drug induced. But I do believe when you ingest certain paraphernalia, like you tap into certain dimensions. I do believe it. So I was out there in space, Earth, seeing the globe, everything's connected, and heart's still racing a million miles per minute. But I'm not afraid. I'm not scared. I'm telling my friend everything that's going on, and then I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to freak out. Because then at this point, I'm back in reality. I'm back in the living room and my heart's not coming down. And it could have been that stuff. No, it definitely was. It was that stuff that I ingested and I shouldn't have ingested it. But I mean, it was, yeah, I was dumb. But so that was one of the experiences that I saw, like literally out. And that's why when people say like and this can be an ongoing debate, I don't care, but I do not believe the earth is flat. People are, they can have their own opinions, but I saw exactly what I saw. It was round, and it was like God's hands were governing the earth. Like he knew exactly what he was doing. And he was like letting me know that everything was connected. We are connected. What you do can affect not only you but someone else. And I was back in my body, and just lived life like normal after that. So I don't know. I just had just really weird things happening throughout the years. And I'm not sure if it was because of the the withdrawals or whatever, or because God wanted me, specifically me, to see those things, because he knew that one day he was going to take the veil off of my eyes. And that actually leads me to the how I started walking on the narrow road. So last year I was a mess. I was depressed. I hated everything. I hated myself. I hated the world. I've always thought of the world as something that I was never a part of. I always felt like I did not fit in anywhere. nowhere I went, I felt like I was an alien. I felt foreign to this planet, and I hated how wicked it was, even before I realized what wickedness was. And so I had a spirit of murder on me, believe it or not. And it's, for me, I have to admit these things because it exists in this world. I mean, you looking at me, you wouldn't think someone like me would have a spirit, but I did. You know, I've worked in nursing homes and worked in other places, and I've been mistreated by staff, somewhat bullied in a way, but not really, but just toxic environments, to where I've even seen abuse towards the residents. And whenever I try to speak out, whenever I try to, go to the next step, I will be the one punished. How
So what she mean? They keep blocking out what she's saying. A spirit, something. I don't know what she talking about. Comment down below if you know what she's talking about.
can someone who's trying to do the right thing be punished for someone else's evil and they try to cover it up? These greedy companies, I hated everything. I've even got fired at one point for standing up for myself and for another resident. And so I had on me, not only for the people that were abusing these residents and somewhat targeting me, but for people that hurt me in the past, whether it was assault, whether it was betrayal, stabbing me in the back. I couldn't stand it because loyalty is a part of my blood. I think that when you say you're loyal to someone, it should not just be lip service. It should be you are loyal no matter what. And I've been betrayed so many times on this planet Earth. It's just, at such a young age, I'm like, how does this even happen? So I hated everything. I had so many times I wanted to, um, myself, not be here anymore, but I was scared of a hell. Believe it or not, I was scared. I was like, that's one thing that kept me tethered on this planet. Not family, not love, not money, not anything in the future that could possibly enhance my life. It was the fear of hell that kept me tethered on this planet, even though I was so close to just ending it all. And I always said this. I said, if I ever kill myself, I'm taking people with me, and it's gonna be those people who hurt other people. Like, I had this vigilante mindset, so that's where I was in 2024 last year. So it came to the point where I didn't want to do anything anymore, and I'm like, okay, well, I got to get out of these nursing homes. I got to do something. So I started working at a psych ward, and that didn't do me too well. I injured myself there, not because of a patient, but because the psych ward that I worked at was very run down, and I ended up falling on my hip. So I had like a lot of injuries just by working in healthcare. My back, they said I have herniated discs in my back. Um, my hip currently right now, they said I have a labral or labrum tear, whichever one, with some other stuff going on that I cannot pronounce. And then my ankle, I had some things going on my ankle. So many things that happened because I worked at healthcare. And I'm like, all because I want to take care of and love people. This doesn't make any sense. Why am I being punished? So I was done with this planet. I wanted to get off, but I wasn't gonna leave without a bang. And just before, and I think that's why the Lord woke me up, because He knew I was gonna do something. I was fed up. I didn't care no more. What did I have to live for? I mean, as sad as that sounds, obviously there's more stuff in my life that I'm not gonna explain um here. But I mean, just imagine, who likes this planet. You know what I'm saying? That's where I was. Uh, I remember being in the bed constantly, not wanting to get up. But just when I finally got up, I just pretended like everything was fine. I was going through gluttony before I even knew what gluttony was, eating sugar all of the time. Even though I was on a weight loss journey, I was still eating sugar like crazy. And then I would just do fast to make up for what I for for the calories that I consumed. So food had became my idol. That's the only thing I could think about. I'm like, well, I can't go back to pills. I've been down that route before. I don't ever want to do that again. That was horrible. And I've had some pills from leftover surgery that I threw away because I just could not. Even though I hated everything about life and hated everything about what I was feeling and going through, I just could not numb myself with pills and things like that. But I'm like, food, it's everywhere. Food is legal. Food isn't something that's demonized, sure. So I just started eating food constantly. And then I would fast. I remember doing one 48-hour fast, just water. And I remember typing in my notes, because I always type in my notes. and my phone to document how I feel through certain times of my life. I remember saying in this in my notes, like, this fast is starting to feel more spiritual than anything. Like, I know I wanted to lose a couple pounds and make up for what I lost, but this is feeling more spiritual. And I remember saying this. This was what was it? Was it March? Whenever it was last year, sometime last year, and I was like, that was the start of it. And the past couple of days, I started getting attacked, spiritual warfare, before I even knew what was going on. So anytime I would go to sleep, I felt like I was getting attacked by demons. Literally, I was getting attacked. They were yanking my covers off of me, scratching me, and I'm like, what is going on? Am I tripping? Like, what is happening? Because remember, I was in a new age, all that. I wasn't thinking about no demons. When think about, I'm thinking like maybe I'm just psycho right now, and I'm just so much of a mindset that maybe I'm just making things up or whatever. So I just brushed it all off. All the while I was scared to go to sleep, terrified. I would stay up all night until I got so drowsy to the point where I ain't had no choice but to fall asleep. My heart would be racing, it would make no sense. Then I would go to the doctor, they would say that everything seems fine, but they wasn't really doing any like intensive tests, but they would just do like the standard EKG. My heart be racing every time I go to sleep. I can't think, I can't, like, it just, I'm hearing stuff like voices in my head. I'm like, what's going on? Like, it was just dark and scary. And the moments leading, like the days leading up to my awakening, I was like getting attacked by the enemy, because I think the enemy knew. I don't know. I don't know how it works in the spirit. I have no idea. But I used to try to go to sleep, and I would get attacked. I'd be scared to go to sleep. And I remember one particular night, I was just in the room, pitch black, no nothing, just zombified for no reason. For no reason absolutely at all. I wouldn't come out of my room. And at that point, I'm laying in the bed, and it felt like electricity going through my body. And I felt like I was dying. Like, it literally felt like I was dying. I was just terrified. And all of a sudden, I was in another. Now, this was not a dream, and this wasn't a vision. I was there. I don't know if it was a hell, but it definitely wasn't earth, and it definitely wasn't heaven, because where I was pitch black, just like my room, but in another dimension. You could feel the darkness in the air. You could feel the stench, the sulfur aroma. It was horrible. And like in a cartoon where they draw the little eyes that you can see pop
I think she meant you can smell the stench and aroma, not feel it.
up in the dark whenever there's a scene that's pitch black and they have the eyes, the cartoon eyes. Imagine that, but these eyes were not cartoon. So I'm in this place. I'm curled up in a ball. I'm scared out of my mind, because when I got transported there, I heard this demonic voice say, I smell blood, and the most scariest voice you can ever think of. So I'm running, not even sure where I'm running to, just dark everywhere, and these red eyes are just following after me, and I'm terrified. I was scared. I was so scared. And next thing you know, and this is what shocks me. This is what shocks me, because I yelled out Jesus. I yelled out Jesus, and it shook that entire place. When I yelled it out, like, I felt like thunder was coming out of my throat. Like, I was like, Jesus, and it was coming out of my mouth, and it just shook everything, just disappeared, and boom. I say woke up, but I was never sleeping. But like, I awoken back in that in my mortal body. And I was crying. I was shaking. I was trembling. I was afraid. And I said, Jesus. And that's when everything clicked. That's when I had the veil ripped off right then and there. And, before, I was not in the know. Couldn't understand nothing about the Bible. Couldn't understand none of that stuff. Sure, I read some parts of the Bible, but didn't really understand. But when he took me out of that, wherever that was, no one wants to go there. He took me out of that. I just knew. I said, it's something in this name of Jesus, and it clicked. It all clicked for me. And I remember the next day, I was like, okay, I'm gonna finally go out into society and just be. I remember just doing research, just reading the Bible, reading, just studying in it, and everything made sense. Every single thing. And I'm like, the stuff that wouldn't make sense before makes sense now. I repented for everything, every single thing that I've done. I apologize and for just my mindset, living in unforgiveness, living in hatred. No matter if I was in the right or not, I was still living in because what I wanted to do, how I wanted to respond to mistreatment and seeing other people get mistreated. What I wanted to do, I wanted to take another person's life, well, multiple people's lives. I felt like I was going to do justice because if I get rid of them, then they won't ever hurt nobody else ever again. That was my mindset. But I'm like, well, if I did that, then they would never have a chance to repent or get a chance to be forgiven. So there's got to be a better way. So anyway, once I came out of that, Jesus forgave me and he opened up my eyes. He took the veil off my eyes. I was in a complete deceit from New Age, from putting my faith in crystals, putting my faith in myself, and putting my faith in my own human knowledge. But then all of the other stuff that I went through started to make sense. So I went on this whole, now this at this point it's August, the beginning of August of last year. And I remember going through like my old journals and stuff like that. And I'm like going through all, because I used to go through some weird, crazy stuff. I remember at one point thinking like I wasn't real or I was like an alien or something like that. I'm like, what is wrong with me? I just could not fit in on this planet. Like I knew something was off, but then I'm like, wait, I'm not of this world. See, when I was in the know, I know now why I was feeling those things and going through those things, because I'm not of this world. People are going to be worldly all they want, but because I'm not part of this world and I never cared about the desires of this world, none of all the material, trendy, vanity, like none of that stuff would have ever appealed to me because I don't care about it. So I will always be ostracized and left out because I'm not in that space. But
All right, y'all, I'm done with this testimony, but I love what she said at the end. I be feeling the same way. Like I feel like an alien, like I don't belong. You know what I'm saying? And she said something powerful. She had to remember that she's not of this world. If you are worldly and you think about worldly things, material things, if that's all you think is worldly, you're going to fit in with this world. But if you are doing God's work, you're trying to follow God on the right path, because a lot of people are not trying to follow God. A lot of people don't care about God, following Jesus, figuring out what their purpose is. But once you start following God, the demons that's behind other people is going to make you feel like you don't belong. And that's one thing we got to remind ourselves, that it's okay to feel like you don't belong, but you belong somewhere else better than this earth. Don't care about the worldly things, man. But y'all see her testimony? She called out the name of Jesus. She found Jesus in her darkness. That's what it's all about. She found Jesus in her darkness. If you made it to the end, put found, no, let's find something else, because it'd be too long. Let's see. We can put Jesus will find you in your darkness. If you made it to the end, this is how I know you made it to the end. Put Jesus will find you in your darkness. Comment down below exactly what y'all think about this video. And also, I'm going to leave part 1 down below in the description. And I got to remember to put the original person's video on there. So sometimes y'all got to remind me that it just be too much work when it comes to the editing part. But I'm going to make sure that I do that. Other than that, man, in my videos, I always say stay inspired, stay motivated, stay grinding. In this next video, I'm out of here. Peace.